Assalamu alaikum students. Safir Hussain is back with another lecture for your subject Introduction to English Literature 2, and today we shall talk about the second element of English novel, which is character or characters. So let's begin. So how do we define a character? So a character is usually a person or an animal or a robot or any agent or anything who takes part in the action of the story, or something or someone which performs most of the action of the story would be termed as a character. So a character can be a person, it can be an animal, it can be a robot, it can be an object or a thing. It can be a supernatural character element, for example, an angel or Satan or a devil, etc. So traditionally or in history, generally only humans were considered to be characters, and it was said that there is no story or there can be no fiction without a human character. But since World War II or since 1950s, objects or things were also considered as characters. For example, a table can be a character, or a leaf can be a character, or anything, any object can act as or can be presented as a character in a story. So characters usually refer to people or humans or animals or robots or supernatural things or general objects you would find in your everyday life. So these are characters. And if we move on to the types or kinds of characters, we have different bases of classification, or we have different categories of characters on the basis of different elements. So if we classify the characters on the basis of their importance or their role in a story, there are two kinds of characters. The first is the main characters or the major characters, and the second one would be small characters or minor characters. So the main characters are such characters who contribute the most to a story, or most of the action, most of the words, most of the thoughts, most of the feelings, most of the actions, etc. Everything is related to these characters, or the whole story revolves around these characters. So if you find a character who is described in detail in a story and most of the actions are performed by that character, then such characters would be termed as the main or major characters. So they are the major contributors in plot development of a story. The plot of a story is developed, it moves on, it gets forward because of these characters, because of their actions, because of their words, because of their thoughts and feelings, their dreams, etc. And if we talk about the major characters, there are two main kinds of major characters generally. The first one is the protagonist, and a protagonist is usually the main positive character of a story. For example, a hero or a heroine of a story would be termed as protagonist. And antagonist is the main negative character or the main evil character in a story, and antagonist is, in usual or everyday language, we name them as the villain of a story. And then we have minor characters, and minor characters do not perform much action in the story, and the story contains very little details about them, very little details about their actions, and very little detail about their words and their thoughts and feelings. and they therefore have very little contribution to the action of the story and to the plot of the story, because they do not say much, because they do not do much, so they have a very little role in the story. So they usually do the supporting roles in a story to fill in the complete story, to present a complete setting. Then we have further two kinds of characters on the basis of their character development. And character development is usually it refers to the development of a character, or the changes the character undergoes, or the changes that occur in the personality or in the thoughts, in the feelings, in the awareness of a character. So these changes are termed as character development. So we have two kinds on the basis of the character development of a story. We either can have character development in a character, and we can have no character development in a character. So the first category is round or dynamic characters. The word dynamic usually refers to something changing. So the round or dynamic characters are usually the main characters, because they undergo changes during the course of the novel or during the course of the story. So they would be different in the beginning of the story, and if we look at the same character at the end of the story, we would see certain or many changes in that character, changes in the understanding of that character, changes in the mentality or personality of that character, and we might also find changes in the circumstances of that character. In physically, the character may change. So such characters are termed as round or dynamic characters, who change from the beginning and to the end of the novel. Then we have flat or static characters, and static word refers to something which is still and which does not move. So usually the minor characters, they do not develop from the beginning to the end of the novel, and they remain static during the whole story. They do not change much. So generally, for example, if there is a story, and in that story there is a servant as well in a house, so we would not see many changes in that servant, or in the mentality of that servant, or in the circumstances of that servant, or in the ambitions and feelings and thoughts of that servant. He would be there just to fill in the story. So such characters are termed as flat or static characters. Then we would discuss what is characterization. Characterization is a term which is defined as the art of creating and describing characters in literature. So how does a writer or an author create a character, and how does he describe that character to the readers, and how does that author or that writer has presented or portrayed or delineated or painted a character in a story. So if we read a story or a novel and we say that this character is a bad character, or this character is a positive character, so how do we distinguish, or how do we get that one character is bad and the other is good? Because of its description, because of his or her actions in the story. So this situation, this technique where the writer presents characters to us in certain ways, the writer describes the characters in detail, and he creates a complete character in front of us in the form of the story. This skill and this phenomenon is termed as characterization, the art of creating and describing characters. So a writer generally describes the physical attributes of a character, about his appearance, about his or her dress, about his or her age and physical body and physical features, the color of his hair and the color of his skin and eyes, etc. The way the character walks or runs or performs different actions. And we do not only have the physical qualities described in a story, we also have a description of a detail of the personality of a character, what sort of personality that character has, what are his or her thoughts, what are his or her dreams or ambitions, what are his or her fears or apprehensions, etc. So we have a proper detail and description of not only the apparent or physical qualities of a character, but also the hidden, the inner, or the characteristics or the personality of a character, and the way characters act or do things, the way they speak and say words, the way they think and feel, etc. So all these things refer to the art of characterization. And generally, if you talk about characterization, writers usually present their characters, describe their characters in two distinct ways. We can have direct characterization and we can have indirect characterization. Let's look at them each. So direct characterization is also termed as explicit characterization. The word explicit means very apparent, or which is there for everyone to see. And in this kind of characterization, the author tells the audience what a character is like. So the word tells is very important here in direct characterization. So the author or the writer directly tells us, directly he writes about what a character is like, or what is his or her appearance, or what is his or her personality. And this telling may be done by the narrator of the story. You might have studied that a story usually has a narrator, a person who is telling us the story. Obviously, the writer has written the story, but the writer may have used a third-person narrator in the story, or the writer may have used a first-person narrator in the story where a person is narrating or telling his or her own story to us. So that person may be the one of the characters in the novel. So that character would be the narrator, whereas the writer is the author. So don't confuse between narrator and writer of a story. So the narrator may tell about the character, or any other character may tell us about some character, which would be referred to as direct characterization. For example, we have three little small examples here. The first example says, Bill was short and fat, and his bald spot was widening with every passing year. So you can see Bill is a character here, and he is described by the narrator directly, and he directly tells us that he was short and he was fat, and the hair on his head were getting less and less by every passing year, and the empty spot in his head was getting bigger and bigger with each and every passing year. So this is first example of direct characterization. Then we have the second example where she sad. So she is maybe one character in that story, and this character is telling us about another character whose name is Jane. So she says that Jane is a cruel person. So you can see that one character is describing another character directly. So and she is describing the personality of this character. In the first example, we had the appearance or physical qualities of the character. Here in the second example, we have the mental qualities or the spiritual qualities or the personality of a character. And a character may describe his or her own qualities and features in a story, which would also be termed as direct characterization. For example, I looked in the mirror and saw how dark the circles under my green eyes had become. So this character is describing some facial features in his or her own face. So this is again an example of direct characterization. Then we have indirect characterization. It is also termed as implicit characterization. Implicit is something which is hidden, and this is hidden characterization, and in it the author shows the reader what the character is like. He or she does not tell us what the character is like, rather he or she, the author, shows us what the character is like. And how does an author show the characters about the readers about a character? The author would not directly tell us that this character was good or that was bad, or this was fat or that was small. The author or the writer would show us that character's actions, that character's deeds, that character's thoughts, that character's words, and through those words and through those actions and deeds and feelings and thoughts, the reader would himself or herself understand something about that character's personality or that character's appearance. So the readers need to be active. So the readers have to extract meaning, infer meaning, guess the meaning from a character's words, from his or her thoughts, and from his or her actions. The writer would only present us their actions and thoughts and words, and it is up to the reader to decide or to get meaning from those words and those thoughts and those actions, and say that a character is like this or a character is like that. For example, the first example says, Bill sighed as he looked at the offer of a gym membership. He really should join, but just thinking about it made beads of sweat collect at the top of his bald spot. So the same person, Bill, has been described indirectly here, that Bill sighed as he looked at the offer of a gym membership. He looked at an offer of a gym membership and he sighed. He was feeling sad about it. So you can see that the meaning that he was feeling sad about it is derived or is extracted by us or by me here in this example. The writer has not said here that he was feeling sad. He has presented an action of the character, and we have got a meaning from it. He really should join, but just thinking about it made beads of sweat, and he's sweating on just thinking about going to the gym. So he may have some fears related to going to gym. So again, this meaning that he may have fears is inferred or is guessed by us or by readers, and the writer has written nothing about it except presenting us the situation of a character. And secondly, you can see as Jane walked past the box labeled free free puppies, she furtively glanced around her, then gave the box a swift kick. You can see that there an action or a situation is presented, that there is a box somewhere on the way, and in the box, on the box there it is written free puppies. Puppies are small, you can say children of dogs, small dogs. So the character Jane saw that there is a box and there are puppies inside it, and she furtively glanced around her. She saw here and there that no one is watching her, and when she got confident that no one is watching her, she gave the box a kick. She kicked the box, or she kicked the puppies. So you can see that a person who kicks animals or puppies without any reason would be a cruel person. So you can see here the writer has not said that Jane was a cruel person. He or she, the writer, has presented an action of the character, and we have guessed that this is a bad character, this is a very bad action, this is a cruel action. And similarly, we have another example. I have left it to read for you and guess meaning by yourselves. Then we have an example from literature. Earlier were some general examples. Now we have some exact examples from literature. And here this passage has been taken from the novel Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and it is you might know that the movie Harry Potter is actually an adaptation of the novel written by J.K. Rowling about Harry Potter. And you can see perhaps it had something to do with living in a dark cupboard, but Harry had always been small and skinny for his age. He looked even smaller and skinnier than really was, because all he had to wear were old clothes of Dudley's, and Dudley was about 4 times bigger than he was. So you can see the writer J.K. Rowling, she is directly telling us about his circumstances, about his physical appearance, about his age, about his the thinness or being skinny of this character Potter, his size being smaller, and his clothes, the clothes he wears, his face and his knees and hair and eyes, etc. So all these things are directly told to us by the writer. So this is direct characterization, and it is an example from literature. Let's have a look at an indirect characterization, an example from literature. I forgot to give it a heading, so excuse me for that. This extract has been taken from the novel To Kill a Mockingbird, and it is a very famous novel by Harper Lee. And so here we can see, first of all, he said one character is saying something. If you can learn a simple trick, Scout, he or this character is talking to another character, Scout, and he tells Scout that you will get along a lot better with all kinds of folks. Folks is people, and get along better means to do well and to behave well with them, and to have a good company with them. You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around it. So here the character, he is saying that if we want to have a good relationship with other people, if we want to understand what the other person is feeling, or what the other person is, his or her point of view is, and until and unless we consider ourselves and we put ourselves in the other person's place, we will never be able to understand that person, that whatever that person is going on or he or she is feeling. So we have to put ourselves in the place of the other person to understand his or her point of view, or to understand his or her situation. So you can see these words are said by one character, this he, and we can see that this he is a very considerate person. He is a very polite and courteous person, because he considers that we have to think about, we have to care about other people, and how can we have a good relationship with them. So he is a sympathizer, he feels sympathy for other people, and he cares for the point of view of the other people, and he tells us how can we understand the point of view of any other person. So generally we can remark that this person is a good person, he has sympathy for others, he cares for others, and he is a very polite and courteous person. So the writer has not here directly told us that this character, he is a good person, he is a courteous person, polite person, he cares for others. Rather, the novelist Harper Lee has presented us, has given us some words of that character, and through those words of that character we can guess what that character is, what he or she is like, or what is his or her personality. So this is termed as indirect characterization. So this is it for characters. Inshallah, you will study other material I have been uploading, and if you have questions, you can ask me using all the means you have. Thank you very much.